One thing I love about this movie is how bad I felt for Napoleon. He's a brilliant military commander who doesn't make mistakes in battle, but makes his first mistake marrying the wrong woman. His wife insults him, belittles him, and cheats on him.
People having extramarital affairs was pretty common in those days.
Yeah, I mean, Napoleon is always away in battle. He's away for months at a time, and Josephine has her needs. He's supposed to get any woman he wants, but he chose to be loyal to Josephine. Why?
Because Vanessa Kirby was tall and sexy.
That's the short answer.
He likes her eyes. Her eyes were bewitching. They were abusive to each other. She would say things to belittle him, and he would say mean things to her. And yet it was obvious that they still very much loved each other all the way.
So you think she genuinely loved him?
Oh yeah, it was obvious. I mean, she's basically on her deathbed, and she's like, "Is Napoleon coming?" She's waiting for him to come, and this is after their marriage had been dissolved because she couldn't provide him with children, and they remained close to one another. They continued to write to one another. She kept all of his letters next to her bed, and he still thought of her after she was gone.
I don't like the love story if there is any. I thought there was little to no chemistry between Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby as a romantic couple. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. What do you think?
They were kind of an odd couple because he wasn't the most lovable, likable, or attractive character,
Mm-mm.
in that relationship. She was beautiful.
Which is probably the intention. They don't want to romanticize the love story because
Hmm.
they want to sell the Napoleon complex thing that he was really insecure and they want to make it look insecure.
In a way, I think that's what makes it interesting, though. I think it's interesting because they are kind of odd, and and it is dysfunctional, but they still love each other, and there's clearly emotion, almost like she was confused
Yeah.
as to why she was so captivated by him. You know what I mean? Like she was not even sure why she loved him so much, but she still couldn't get away from him. She still thought about him. It'd be like having a relationship with Elvis Presley. It's kind of like here's this huge, larger than life person that everyone in the world knows and everyone in the world loves, and you're with that person.
Yeah.
And so it's probably very complicated emotion. It's like
Right.
I really admire this person, but I'm not sure I really like this person.
Yeah. And I like how I look towards other people when I'm around him.
Hmm. He was a man when he was in the battlefield, confident, even cocky.
Yeah.
When he was not in that world and he's at home and he's with the woman, he was vulnerable. He was like a boy, even. All of his insecurities would come out.
Maybe he doesn't really act that comical or cartoony in real life.
Hmm.
I think they added that.
Maybe Ridley Scott's motivation was we want him to be a human being. He's not just a
Yeah.
picture in a book. But at the same time, I kind of have a hard time thinking that he acted silly or like a child.
In Gladiator, Maximus was just perfect and stoic the whole time.
Right.
When you compare both movies, there's a very, very big difference in tone.
Yeah.
If not for the action sequences, I wouldn't think this is a Ridley Scott movie.
Yeah.
But it was
I think
funny.
that's yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I
it
mean,
was it was entertaining, but this also might be why the French critics didn't like it because they probably know more about Napoleon and they're like, this is not how Napoleon was. But Ridley Scott's response to that was that he showed it to an audience in Paris and they loved it.
oh,
So
well, there you go.
who knows?
But Napoleon really was one of the best military commanders in history, wasn't he?
Yes, definitely, because he wasn't just a general; he became the emperor. What's interesting is that they're trying to end the monarchy, right? They've killed the king, now they've killed the queen, they've killed all these nobles, and they're going to have a republic. But then, just 10 years later, they crown a new king, and they're right back. It's a cycle. It's like we always want a leader. It's funny. It's like we say we want everybody to be the same, but the people still want someone to be the guy.
It's just like the Kims of North Korea. They liberated North Korea from Japanese rule. They led the revolution.
Yeah.
And after that, they became as bad, if not worse.
Hmm.
What confused me was Josephine had like 3 children before Napoleon, but then we never get to see them again.
Well, you do see her daughter at the end because that was his daughter that he's talking to after Josephine died, which also begs the question: how come she could have children before, but then when she was with him, she couldn't have children? They don't really answer that because he obviously had a child with another girl, so it wasn't him that was the problem.
Right.
They don't have time to get into all the details. So
What confused me was why Napoleon started losing battles all of a sudden. Maybe he's just stressed from everything that's going on in his personal life.
I think he got a little too arrogant, a little too sure of himself. One of his men says, "We can't fight in the winter. We have to go back and wait."
Right.
I'm thinking he was invincible probably at that point because he never lost.
He became an emperor at this point, and when you become an emperor, I think there's more expectation.
Hmm.
So he forced it. Like if you lose a battle, it's a shame. So he can't stop.
And then Waterloo was the same thing. Waterloo was another example of him thinking, "Oh, the British don't know how to fight on land. They just know how to fight at sea." So he was overconfident then too.
My favorite scene was when he came back from exile. He stood in front of his former soldiers and convinced them to join him again, and they did.
They embraced him.
That was a glorious moment. Long live the emperor.
That's the cult of personality that I was talking about. How it's like we're hungry for a strong leader. They In the scene before that, they show the new king, and he's this huge fat guy that just doesn't even seem like he would command respect. Like, who wants to follow him? So the men see Napoleon, and he comes to them, and he's basically almost got tears in his eyes, and he just knew how to say the right words, to get them to love him again. He had been through so many battles and won those battles and proven himself, so even people that didn't like him had to have some level of respect for him.
He must be a pretty charismatic guy, like Trump.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah, but the ending wasn't satisfying, but that's what happened. He lost his final battle, exiled again, then the end.
I don't like
Mm.
it either. You know what it reminded me of, that end? Another not satisfying ending. Godfather Part 3.
He just died.
Yeah, remember he's just sitting in a chair and he just slumps over, and it's like didn't even need to put that in the movie.
but the whole point was that all that mattered in his life was France and Josephine. With that premise, there's a lot of potential for a satisfying love story.
But see, we're back to the same problem that I said at the very beginning. You're trying to do 2 or 3 or 4 movies in one. And this is the thing, they've made movies before about Napoleon. And some of the times it's Napoleon and Josephine, that's the movie.
And it's a satisfying love story.
I mean, it's enough of a story to have its own movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's military stuff and political stuff, it's in the background,
Mm.
and they focus on the relationship. Or you can have a movie that's about the military campaigns and what he's doing on the battlefield, and Josephine is in the background. You almost have to pick and choose. Do you want to do the romance, or do you want to do war, or you want to do politics? But when you try to put them all into one movie, I'm not saying that can't be done. He did it, and for the most part, it was good. It was okay.
But for anyone that is not very particular about Napoleon, is this the best Napoleon movie?
It's not going to get better than this visually. I can say that.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not going to find something with a budget that's this big that's going to show you battle sequences and costumes. I mean, the shot of him being crowned king, there's a painting of that looks almost identical to what was on screen.
mm.
I think it undercuts the movie by putting all the number of people that died during all the battles that he was in. I don't understand what the point of that was.
Obviously, he wanted to say Napoleon was a bad guy and shouldn't be looked up to as a hero or a you
That
know.
if you're going to judge his whole military career by that, you could do that with anything. Yes, there was some villainy for sure, and he's always been portrayed as a villain anyway.
Mhm.
But shouldn't the movie do that for you?
Okay, so guys, if you've seen Napoleon, please comment what you think about it, and in the comments, tell us how we're wrong about everything. We appreciate any comments, negative, positive.
Just bring it on. It's just opinions, We're not curing cancer.
All right, it's just two guys complaining about movies. There's no big
Yeah,
deal.
that's all.